Welcome to session 5 of Connection-Based Wellness. We have Joel Pukalo here from Family Life Psychology, and he's going to be today talking about spiritual wellness in our lives, having purpose and meaning and going somewhere. And so if you're interested in this topic, you don't want to miss this video. Be sure to check it out. If you haven't checked out the introduction video to this series, you're going to want to make sure you go back and check that out before proceeding with this series, as that introduction video is going to really help you get a really good base of knowledge as you move forward in these areas of wellness in your life. So if you haven't checked that out, I would encourage you to do that before proceeding with this video.
Welcome back to Connection-Based Wellness. Today we'll be talking about a really interesting topic of spiritual wellness. And for some, this might not seem as an important part of wellness, but in my personal journey, I found it to be one of the central ones, and everyone's a little bit different. So even as we get into this topic, I just want to preface by saying everyone has different spiritual perspectives. We all have different belief systems. Some of us might not believe in a higher power or something bigger than ourselves. I'll share briefly my personal journey for just a minute. I would never want to put my personal beliefs or values on someone else, but I just share this story in authenticity because I believe spiritual wellness is a core part of who we are. How we answer those questions might be different for everyone, but I do believe there's a part of us that is spiritual. And for myself, it's very interesting. When I think of my own mental health journey, the times I've been the most depressed and the most anxious in my life have actually been wrestling with this question of human finitude and just the infinite kind of bigness of this universe and this world that we live in. And it was scary for me, especially in my teenage years and young 20s. I would often think about this and honestly feel quite a bit of anxiety and an amount of depression and hopelessness of, what's the point of loving people if we just die, and just turn to dust after life here? Or what's the point of loving people if they pass away? Like, what is there in purpose and meaning? What is truly lasting? And then you just think about just anxiety around that and what happens after death. And there's so many different topics. So if this particular area of wellness is not as much of an interest for you, you don't have to follow this particular video series. But for me, it's been huge. So I just share that as my own personal journey. And in those wrestlings, I've come to find some of those answers for myself. For me, finding a faith and a higher power and just a bigger picture perspective on life keeps me very grounded. It gives me a lot of hope for the future, but it also makes me very present in today, knowing that I have an opportunity today to make the life of someone around me better. So for me, having that big picture perspective is just so powerful. And I recognize that all of us come to terms with that in different ways. We might have different faiths or different ways of looking at the big picture. But I think for all of us, one thing that really is at the core of all of us as humans is when we look at life from a big picture, we actually can feel hope and we can feel purpose and encouragement. But if we just magnify our little problems and our little life, all of a sudden, we're the only focus of the picture and we can see all of our flaws. Kind of a funny story is if you think about as a photographer, sometimes we take like selfies, and when you take like a selfie that's like really close to your face, you can see like all the issues with your face and all the things you don't like about yourself. But if you take like a zoomed out picture of like a whole family photo, you don't even see those flaws in your face. And I think that's what spiritual wellness does in a lot of ways. Being able to find purpose, build connections, and create positive vibes. It's a very just natural way of zooming out on our self-focused lives and looking at the big picture. I've heard once that someone said that in the word anxiety, the middle letter is I. It's all about me. The focus is me. When we get self-focused, it's actually not good for our mental health, emotional health, or wellness. We just focus on our flaws and all of our issues. But zooming out and shifting that perspective to a bigger picture can be so helpful. So we'll just navigate this in different ways today, as I want to help you personally find your purpose, build your connections, and create positive vibes in a way that's authentic for you. So the first piece is purpose and meaning. Feeling like your life matters and having a purpose for living. And I suggest writing a purpose list of kind of what you hope to accomplish in your life is really important. Looking at that big picture and asking yourself, why have I been placed on this earth? What would be my legacy? What are the things that I hope to leave people with in my life? An interesting activity that I heard is this idea of writing an epitaph. So the idea of what would you want written on your gravestone or on a reflection or a celebration of life, a personal memory of yourself. I did a really interesting exercise a couple years ago, and I kind of wrote out what I would hope people would say about me after I passed away. It was pretty neat to think about because it was just really reflecting on what purposes I hope to accomplish and the lasting impact I hope to leave on my family and my friends and the world around me. So I just encourage you, because as we're actually tuned into our purpose in life, it's that vision. It's like what we're driving towards or what we're steering towards. It's growing. And when we're focused on our vision, we're less distracted by the peripheral stuff around us. But I think for a lot of us, if we don't have vision, we get lost. We kind of sidetrack, we detour. And especially in everything going on in the world today, I really believe that without vision, it's so easy to get caught up in the noise of so many different things happening. So that's why I think spiritual wellness is so important, because it's at the core finding the purpose for our lives. How we define that purpose is unique to us, but for all of us, we need that purpose. We need something we're driving towards. You know, if I get in my car, let's say I'm driving to Vancouver, I've got a map and it's taking me from, let's say, Edmonton or Calgary to Vancouver. And I'm staying focused on that course. So when other distractions or things come, like, oh, this looks cool, we could go here, go there. I'm like, nope, I'm going to Vancouver. That's where I'm going. And having that sense of purpose and what we're driving towards, even for those especially who are experiencing depressive symptoms and are feeling down, one of the most important predictors of getting through those seasons and coping well is having something to look forward to, having a reason you're here, having a purpose to your life. So I just encourage you, even in the links below, you can reach out. We'd love to chat with you and support you in developing that purpose unique to yourself, not specific to whatever our personal beliefs might be. But purpose is just so key, and I believe at the core of humanity. And I think often the reason we might have anxiety or depression or other mental health symptoms, of course, there's chemical imbalances in our brain and external stressors and many factors. But I think there's a lot to do with our connection and the degree to which we're connected with purpose. I've got some lights for today's studio shoot, and we can see that if we were to dim the lights down, no one could see me. I'd be in the dark. And that's what happens to our mental health symptoms. In a very supportive environment where we have a clear purpose and vision, we're supported by our supporting cast, we have lower levels of stress, we don't see the manifestation of those mental health symptoms, whether it be anxiety, depression, or other things. The opposite is also true. In the absence of supportive people, the absence of purpose, and the existence of a lot of stress, we see all of our mental health symptoms just dial up to the nth degree and just get super bright, and life is super tough. It's really hard. And I think that if we think about the supporting cast and the relational wellness side of things, that's very important. But so is this idea of purpose, this spiritual wellness. If we can be connected to our spiritual wellness, sense of purpose, and relational wellness, the people supporting us, we can just about get through anything. And that's important because it helps us look at the bigger picture and know that no matter what's happening in our lives, there's hope, there's a bigger picture, that whatever's kind of trying to work for our bad or trying to difficult circumstances and situations, that there's a way for it to turn around and actually work for our good. So that's where that big picture purpose is so key. And having some specific goals and visions we're driving towards really helps us in our day-to-day life as well. I believe purpose does not exist in a vacuum. It can exist by yourself. It actually exists in a supportive community. So connecting to our community, learning how to help each other, and even connecting others to community are three powerful things we can do to be connected. So for some of us, our community groups might be a faith group. For others, it might be playing hockey, playing a sport, volunteering at the library, sitting on town council, whatever it might be. But we all need to feel like we're connected to something bigger than ourselves. And when we're invested in something bigger than ourselves, it really does give us that sense of fulfillment and purpose. So you might not even know what your purpose is or what you want to accomplish on your life or what you hope that people will say at the end of your life. Just start somewhere. Connect with something in the community, start helping people, get connected to something bigger than yourself, and all of a sudden, you'll find your purpose will naturally begin to evolve and grow. And that's where helping others is so important, you know? It's very important to treat mental health symptoms like depressive symptoms and go to the doctor and see mental health professionals and get that support. A lot of people who have depressive symptoms, if they just would step out of kind of their perspective, just like anxiety, that middle letter is I, we can also become very self-focused when we're depressed. And if we just start helping other people, we're going to feel better. Of course, you still need mental health professionals, you still need doctors, but simply just helping others and volunteering your time, looking beyond the needs of yourself to help other people in need. I can think of so many times when I've felt depressed and had a hard time in my life. And instead of getting self-focused, I would think, okay, you know what? How could I volunteer my time or help people or do something that's bigger than myself? It's not to avoid my problems or avoid my issues or just get busy or distract myself, but it's actually focusing on the bigger picture. As we talked about, our lives are meant to be a river. We receive life and we give life out. When we stop giving life out, we become a slough. The water gets murky, it gets gross, it gets stinky. And for a lot of us, sometimes we're having more challenges with depressive symptoms. We can be more by ourselves, less connected with people, less giving out that life. And the less we give out the life, the more we stagnate and the more we become a slough. So, of course, it's very important to reach out. We do have a link here as well if you want to talk to a mental health professional about any challenges you're experiencing, and reaching out to physicians and doctors as well is very key. Don't want to oversimplify this issue, but building connections and having purpose really helps dial down or bring down some of those mental health symptoms that you might be experiencing. Doesn't solve them, doesn't make them go away. They need to be treated and addressed, of course, medically, but it does help manage them a little bit. The final area is creating positive vibes. So this is practicing gratitude, self-compassion, and mindfulness. Gratitude is so powerful. I can't recall off the top of my head, but I believe someone said something to the effect of trying to think about 15 to 20 things you're grateful for every day is like a mental workout. It actually really helps focus your brain in that area of gratitude. And that sounds like a lot, like 15 to 20 things. I know I've tried this actual mental workout before, and I can maybe sometimes think about 5 to 10. But if you think about going to the gym, if you just did 5 weights every day, you're really not going to grow in strength. You're not going to build muscle, and you're not going to get into the better shape that you want to be. And the same is true of gratitude. Just thinking about the same old 2 or 3 things you're thankful for every day is probably not going to help build that muscle, so to speak, gratitude muscle in your brain to think and approach life differently. So I'd encourage you to get out a gratitude journal. If you live with someone or a family, make it a family activity and brainstorm for each person in the family 2 things you're thankful for each day. Gratitude really is so powerful because we're focusing on what is good instead of what's not happening. It sometimes doesn't come natural. We can either kind of program our brains to focus on what's not happening or what's not good or what is good. And that's where just making it very practical. There's both a quantity and quality, I like to say, in gratitude. So in terms of quantity, thinking about as many things, a number of things that you're thankful for, like I said, hopefully 15 to 20. There's also a quality aspect of gratitude where you can think of one person. Let's pick a family member. And you can think about all the things you like about that family member or friend. And let's say if it's a friend, I'll think of one of my friends here, and they're supportive, they're caring, I can call them anytime, they make me good food usually, they're really funny. We've had some really amazing times together, watching some sports, just talking, driving. They were in my wedding party. There's like so many different things I can think about for this person, that memories, experiences, emotions, just so many awesome things. And that's the quality aspect of gratitude, just focusing on one person a day and just thinking about all the supportive or awesome things about that individual. Gratitude's so powerful. It's very easy to do, but it's just a matter of actually making that a point. Just thinking about it in our heads is okay, but really when you start writing it down and talking about it, that's really, I think, where that learning in your mind takes the next step and next level, and it really solidifies and cements that. We've talked a little bit about self-compassion and self-acceptance before, but it really is choosing to be kind to yourself. Asking yourself, what would a caring, kind friend do right now? So for example, I'm super judgy with myself and I tend to get hard on myself. And let's say a couple weeks ago, I made a mistake and I was just being super hard on myself and I was upset. And I honestly was experiencing a lot of anxiety. My chest felt very heavy and I was almost having like a panic attack type symptoms. So first thing I did was, in the past, I would just kind of like really just get stuck and just kind of spiral. But the first thing I've learned to do is recognize this is a moment of suffering. My brain's tricking me right now. I'm just zoomed into my perspective. All I can see is myself and my problem. I can't see anything beyond myself. I'm way too focused. I'm way too zoomed into this. This is my mind tricking me again. Everyone makes mistakes, Joel. I'm choosing to be kind to myself. I'll take a deep breath, feel that difficult place in my heart, my chest, where I'm just feeling that stress, and reaching out to a supportive friend. So those are a number of steps in gratitude, in self-compassion, I should say. The other piece too in self-compassion is asking yourself, what would a friend say? Sometimes we need people around us who can see us more clearly than we can see ourselves. I'm probably the most judgiest, hard-on person for myself, for my friends would see that perspective a little bit differently. Kind of a funny story. I don't do much investing or like stock markets, but just for fun, I decided with my friend to invest a little bit of money just for kicks. And when I invested a bit of money and the stock went down, I was mad at myself. But when my friend did it, I was like, oh, you know what? That's okay. He'll get it next time. We'll figure this out. Everyone makes mistakes. It's ups and downs, and that's okay. Everything's going to be fine. So it's very interesting, the approach I took with myself when I made a mistake versus the approach I took with my friend when he made a mistake. I was much kinder to my friend than I was to myself. And most of us are that way as well. We are often more hard on ourselves than we would be another person. So flip that around, vice versa. So when we are having a hard time or being judgy with ourselves, a really important practice in the area of spiritual wellness is choosing to be kind to ourselves and actually calling up or talking to a couple people in our lives who care about us and getting their perspective, literally hearing them say those kind words or their perspective. Hey, Joel, you just made a mistake. It's going to be okay. It's not a big deal. That is really powerful and can change the way we think and feel about situations. So there's self-compassion exercises. If you just Google it or look into it, there's many on the internet that are available. And as well, it's both us doing them, but also really reaching out to our supporting cast and asking for their perspective can really help in that area of self-compassion as well. The final area is that mindfulness piece, whether it be meditating, journaling, praying, contemplatively reflecting on our day, doing things that kind of keep us here in the present moment. For myself, I find prayer is really helpful. There's this idea, for some people, they might not call it prayer, they might call it different things, but if I've got a problem, I'm going to say, just think about it and put that into a prayer or a way of asking for help. So it could be to a person, it could be, of course, to God or a higher power, whatever it might be, but it's a very practical way to be present with your emotions and what you're experiencing. So I journal about it. I'll say, hey, help, this is really hard. And whether it be praying and asking God for help or asking a friend for help, putting it kind of into a prayer focus or a help focus from reaching out. And I think from a spiritual perspective, regardless of what faith perspective we might have, we're only as strong as our supporting cast. And God's power is made perfect in our weakness, not in our strength. Sometimes we feel like we want to keep it all together, hold it all together. And sometimes faith even teaches us to be strong and look a certain way and present ourselves a certain way. And it's all about what we can do in our works. But really, true spirituality, the opposite is true. It's actually in our weakness that we find strength. And knowing that we're not perfect, we'll never measure up, we all need help, we're all broken people. Those types of perspectives allow us to find, I would say, faith and spiritual wellness when we stop striving. So whatever your spiritual journey is, and maybe you're not even a spiritual person, the idea of striving versus surrender, of trying to measure up versus letting go is very key. And from my perspective, I always say, even if you don't have a faith, that giving ourselves grace. We can either operate in judgment mode and expectations and hold ourselves to the standard, or grace recognizes that no one measures up. I'm never going to measure up. In acknowledging and embracing my weakness, I can actually receive strength from myself, from the people around me, and as relevant for our lives, a higher power who can help us in ways that we can't help ourselves. And I think that is so at the core of spiritual wellness, recognizing there's greater people, there's greater powers. For me, it's that faith perspective. For others, it might be something different, but there's greater things in our lives that can help us. We're not alone. We're not by ourselves. We don't have to be strong and hold all together. We have support. We have a support network. For me personally, I think the support network is vertically and horizontal. I have a support network of people, but I also have a support network, I feel, from my faith that helps me in my day-to-day life, knowing I don't have to measure up. I'm not alone. I don't have to be perfect. So reaching out and leaning into our networks, both horizontally with people and vertically with our faith, whatever that might be for us, can be really helpful in journeying in our day-to-day life. So practically, I want you this week to just apply that in writing these things down into your notes, into your phone, setting a reminder. What are you going to do this week to build purpose, connections, and positive vibes? Those 3 areas. It might take you a couple weeks, but I think these 3 areas are so important that we need to journey in all 3. So I just encourage you, whether it be today and throughout the next few weeks and even month, think about how you want to grow in all 3 of those areas in your life. Because as you do, you're going to feel more connected, you're going to feel more purpose, and it's going to improve wellness in those other areas of life too.
Thank you for watching this video on spiritual wellness. We hope you got something out of it. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button, because we still have more of the series to come, and we trust it will bless you. In the next session, Joel's going to be talking about personal wellness and those areas in our personal lives that we want to strive towards. And he's going to be giving us tips and hints in how to move towards wellness in that area of our lives. So be sure to subscribe, because you're not going to want to miss it.